Warning: this show may cause you to play more. The consequences of this can include enjoying work, looking forward to coming home, dealing effectively with challenges, and being happy. Welcome to PlayDHD, the premier resource for expert information, conversation, and content focused on play and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, with psychologist and ADHD coach Dr. Kirsten Milliken and author Stacey Turis. Welcome to PlayDHD.
So we are here today, though, with Aaron Weintraub, and we are going to talk to him about his company called Kids Cooperate and the program that he is running called Social Sensory Cognitive Processing. And so welcome to the show, Aaron.
Thank you. Thank you, Stacey, and thank you, Kirsten. It's nice to be here. Be starting up a high school program and an independent living support program.
Okay, so what you missed, Kirsten, is I asked him about Kids Cooperate, and he explained what it was and said that they have a preschool, elementary, middle school program, and that they're starting to build a high school program. So what do you do exactly in the program with the kids?
Well, there's myself, and I have two other facilitators, and each group I have a peer mentor, a neurotypical child who participates in the play and isn't singled out because of that in any way, but is just there to be in the mix. And what we do is programming using this specific process that we've come up with through our work called the social sensory cognition process. And the purpose is to help the children and young adults to feel more at ease in their own space, and so that they can interact and build and maintain healthy social connections.
So for example, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Stacey. So
I was just wondering about, like, for example, you know, a lot of the kids have issues with eye contact when they're speaking. So is that something that you would work on in your groups?
Well, yes. And now with this process that we use, it's indirect. When we first started, it was a traditional curriculum where came with some of the the pragmatic transactional skills like eye contact and personal space and conversational skills, and we would work on those in more of a lesson format. But in the past few months, we've shifted tack to a play-based and activities-based curriculum where the skills are scaffolded by the activities that we create each week. It's an emergent curriculum, so it's based on the children's interests, and it's somewhat, we try to be open-ended and flexible because each week they bring in their own strengths and their own struggles, and we try to build that into the curriculum in a flexible way.
You and I, well, the three of us were talking earlier, Aaron, and you did a really nice job of summarizing the difference between traditional types of interventions that are used with kids who have social skills challenges and what you're doing. And do you remember some of what you were saying? Because it really made sense to me.
Well, I think that the traditional model is the central metaphor would be a toolbox, where you hope to give the children new and more effective tools to use in their everyday life. So the purpose of the group would be to introduce a skill and teach it, and so
learning how to approach somebody and say, "Hi, my name is such and such," or
right. I remember one of the more traditional lessons we did. We spent some time passing each other in the hall. When we talked about proximity and space and comfort, and so that would be an example of a traditional way of teaching a social skill. And I think that what I realized through listening to the parents and the children from the group is that often puts them into a double bind, where they're asked both to be something other than they are naturally. They're asked to be social and interact socially, but then at the same time, it's demanded that they're authentic, and they're penalized very harshly socially for being inauthentic and appearing. I'm sure we've all shaken hands with somebody who introduced themselves in an overly formal manner when that wasn't the correct setting for it, and then kind of what to say to take it deeper than that. And so the trick is that they have to not just understand it. They can't just have a tool in their toolbox. They have to, I think what we talked about earlier was they have to get it first, and then they have to forget it in order for it to be authentic. They can't be thinking about it, because that second of cognitive space that it takes to process what's their facial expression, what does it mean, how do I respond appropriately to it, creates an inauthentic interaction, which is punished.
So it's like, be yourself, but don't be yourself.
Right. Be yourself, but not that self.
Right.
The one we want to see.
How many times, though, I mean, whether it's social skills or, we were just talking with Alan Brown about people with ADHD being called immature because we want to play or whatever. How many times, though, whether you have, a diagnosable difference or whatever, are people told, like, we want you to do this, but not the way that you want to do it or the way that is natural to you or authentic, but this other way so that you fit in.
And often, to add a layer of complexity to that, they're not told that explicitly. Sometimes people are told that by people they love, or are people who are in an authority position, but often those rules are unspoken. You're told first off what not to do. It's not okay to pace when you feel anxiety in a
Don't
classroom.
do that. Don't do that.
But then the other rules about what you should do are unclear. So I think that it can be very discouraging for somebody who doesn't have it come naturally and works very hard, and then feels like that's constantly being batted down by the people they look to for feedback.
And so often, kids and adults, we want to please people. We want to do what's asked of us. We want to fit in. We want to have connections. And so to be inauthentic in the name of being accepted and not rejected or criticized, that's so much work.
Yeah, and it's often a very explicit. It's often a very explicit central metaphor in teaching social skills. It's a game. Play the game. I mean, that's in a lot of the traditional curriculums in a very clear sense. Teach the kids that social interaction is a game that they play, and you put on your mask and you act. Well, I'll tell you what. We have enough actors in this world who, and that's not working.
So tell us how you play. I want to hear about how you guys play, because it sounds like you're using real play when it comes to these things.
Yeah. Well, so once the first step is realizing for me that wasn't working, and then of course the next step is that that's not enough to just tear it down. You have to think proactively about, well, if this paradigm is no longer working, what's going to replace it? And the answer, I think, like all good answers, is the simplest one, which is that in order for somebody to be authentic in a social interaction, they have to first feel safe in their own space. And so they have to be authentic with themselves before they can be authentic with somebody else. And so
yes.
All of our processes are based on sensory experience. And so the purpose, the process, we use three what we've identified as social senses for this, which are sight, sound, and space. And of course, with a room full of children somewhat Asperger's syndrome, I get pointed out to me all the time that space is not, in fact, a sense. But the way that we talk about it, you know, the sight is sight and sound are more obvious about the information that you get, not just about facial expression, but about you know, light and texture and all of that from through your eyes. You know, here sound in the sense of you know, where thinking in expanding circles. So sometimes it's listening to your own breath and being being internal. Sometimes it's giving your attention to the sound of the person who's speaking to you. And other times it's expanding that in order to listen for oncoming traffic, or listen for the tone of other people's voice around you. Maybe you're in a library for these cues. And space is the one that's a little bit more metaphorical. And when we talk about that, it has to do in three concentric levels. One, being in your own space, in your body, and understanding your body and having sort of a body awareness. The second being social touch, you know, a fist bump, a handshake, a pat on the shoulder. A lot of kids have, you know, that can really torpedo their social efforts when a crowded hall or classroom where somebody's touching their shoulders is all they can focus on. And then the third being just space awareness. Where is your body in space? Where is your social interaction in space? And those contextual cues are understanding the whole paradigm of practice, because you know, people don't exist outside of their context, and relationships don't exist outside of their context, and community doesn't exist outside of a context, and it doesn't make sense to quantify that and break it into pieces to try to understand it.
What does a typical night look like then when you have a group? Just what does it look like? What's a typical group look like? You go in and
so
the preschoolers, and I want to hear the difference between the preschoolers and the middle schoolers.
Yeah. Well, so the preschool group is the focus on that is boundaries, and it's about boundaries between the children and their parents, who often stay. It's about boundaries between the children and the materials, boundaries between the children and each other, and between the facilitators and the children. And so, you know, at this stage, it's about knowing where their own bodies start and end, and how to appropriately, you know, at all ages, behavior is communication. All behavior is communication, but particularly when communication is difficult, when you're a preschooler and you often can't say what you're feeling or even really know what you're feeling, the behaviors that you exhibit are really the way that you communicate. And so as a bigger person, you know, even on the floor with the children, they'll often you know, speak to me or the other facilitator when they need to communicate with somebody else in the group. And so what we'll do, you turn the conversation to the other child. Well, you know, why don't you tell them what you just told me, and then help to facilitate and model the interaction. Beyond that, it's largely organized chaos of free play. It's not so I don't mean that it's nobody's sitting around.
They're playing, but you're incorporating everything that you're wanting to teach within this. So it doesn't feel like it becomes
more of a natural setting than a contrived intervention.
Right, and I believe unshakably that anything that you want to teach can be done within the context of play. For all ages. That's the basis of Kids Cooperate. That's our philosophy of practice. And maybe even going so far to say is that, you know, I don't know, but I think you can say that there's a lot you can't teach without play, because play is the context in which children learn, and if you take something out of context, it's useless. So with the middle school and elementary school groups, it's a little bit more formal in the expectations because, you know, that's a developmental stage where the boundaries become less physical and concrete and more social and emotional. So it's an important place for experimenting with boundaries.
You're adding hormones in there. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
that is just a recipe for.
Yeah, I had one guy go home over Christmas break and come back 3 weeks later, 2 feet taller with a mustache and not happy to be there.
That was not a good process for him.
Right. Yeah, and I'm sure that you guys as therapists deal with this all the time with sorting out, you know, what's a normal developmental issue, and where are we dealing with how some sort of a spectrum disorder or deficit disorder how that's manifesting, and you deal with those two things hopefully holistically together, but you think about them differently.
Yeah, you have to, because and I think that's what a lot of people don't understand is that you have to break it apart and see. I mean, there's just so many things that can be contributing, and you have to break it apart and say, like, my 7-year-old kid is out of his mind right now, out of his mind. And so I had to look it up because I was like, either he's crazy or he's going through something, hormonally or whatever. And I had no idea that 7-year-olds had any hormone issues, but apparently they start getting testosterone and then all hell breaks loose. So
yeah. Well, and Aaron, I really appreciate, I mean, so many times I get kids who are not neurotypical, it might be on the Asperger's spectrum or ADHD, and they're brought by their parents or provider saying, look at this behavior they're engaging in. And you look at their age and they're interested in girls or they're whatever, and it's a typical behavior for that age group, but everybody thinks about the kid as being immature or not capable of managing it, so it becomes this pathology.
Yeah.
Rather than
they just group it into the same thing. Right.
Well, and so that's the problem with traditional psychotherapy and treatment models, because then if you treat it as pathology. But I think with a play-based model, it negates a lot of the problem because you don't treat anything like pathology. You treat everything like a behavior in a context, and even the Dalai Lama himself could benefit from the type of activities we do in my group. And so
we'll invite him.
Yeah, let's ask
him. Aaron, I want to take a moment. We have a sponsor spot coming up, and then we'll get back to, because I want to hear more about this, the Kids Cooperate program.
Do you wish learning could feel more like, I don't know, playing? Well, ADD Crusher videos are guaranteed to help you create mental focus, get and stay motivated, manage time, and more. And these videos are a blast to watch and learn from. They're like veggies for your brain, but candy for your eyes and ears. They're like having your own personal ADHD coach who's brilliant but crazy. And right now, you can get 20% off ADD Crusher videos by using promo code PlayDHD20 at addcrusher.com.
So let's go back to Aaron, who is here again talking about Kids Cooperate, which you can find more information about at kidscooperate.com. And we're talking about the difference that he realized in working with autism spectrum and ADHD kids on skills from a traditional standpoint. And then he's moved to this new standpoint that really incorporates play. And it sounds like you're really creating, again, a much more natural type of interaction among the kids and among the facilitators and sometimes the parents. But you also mentioned, Aaron, that you have neurotypical kids who are participating in this program with these other kids. How does that work? Where do you find these kids? Tell me, what's their role? What do they do?
Well, so far I found all of them under my own roof. That would be case as we grow. Other parents have expressed interest in. I think that one of the most, children are really robbed of the experience of being around people who have a diverse way of learning and being when mainstreaming doesn't happen in classrooms. And I think that when I was in school in the 80s and 90s, there was a real commitment to mainstreaming, and now there's a bit of a backslide in the way children are, they're put in classrooms, but they're pulled out at different times, and there's less of a philosophical commitment to that as a value in schools, and the real losers in that are the neurotypical children who are missing out on being exposed to that. So that's my thought and approach to any parents who I have that are interested in getting their kid in a group like this to help out.
Who refers the kids to your group? Is it from psychologists or schools, or how do you find the kids that actually participate in your groups?
I have gotten some referrals from therapists and psychologists, and we're new to Connecticut. The business has only been open for about 10 months now, and so we're still in the process of building trust and referrals.
Right.
But
where in Connecticut are you? Just for people who are listening.
It's Tolland, Connecticut, which is northeastern Connecticut, about sort of equidistance between the Yukon and Hartford.
Stacey finally fell off of her makeshift seat that she had. That was kind of funny, Stacey. I got to tell you, I know you didn't want to fall off of it, but that was kind of fun to watch. We were literally just talking to Alan Brown, and we were talking about how when you're engaged in this intense play, like you get so single-minded about things, and your mind becomes clear. You can see things clearly, and how inspirational and exciting it is.
And you get new information that your brain's clean enough to accept new things and new thoughts, because you're not just muddling through the crap that's floating around in there constantly.
Well, and that brings sort of to the central, so I've sort of described what we do and what the result is, but I think that the black box is always why it works, and it's something that when your process is based on something like play or something more holistic or qualitative, you're challenged to sometimes meet those expectations of explaining, quantifying what you do, and how it works, and what we've come to discover is that every time you come into a social interaction, you bring all of your previous sensory experiences to it, and your brain in an instant so fast that if it's happening the way most people does, it flips through all of those cards and it says, what is this situation like? What is it different than? And am I safe? And then it brings that to the interaction. But for a child on the autism spectrum disorder, their sensory experience is often the place where that's disrupted. And it can be disrupted as something like as simple as one of the neon lights is flickering.
Yeah,
and that's
a ceiling fan. I can't.
It helps them to create a complete sensory record, which they can bring to their next and all of their future interactions. The mistake that I feel like I was making before, and that a lot of programs make, is the first thing they do is try to apply a meta layer of this layer of metacognition over every interaction. So that should be the last step. I think the first step is that, stop and think, am I making eye contact? What does the upturned mouth mean? What's the appropriate way to respond at the end of when they lower their voice at the end of a conversation? Then it's my turn to speak. And of course, you're paralyzed when you've got that layer of metacognition without a sensory experience as a foundation.
That's fascinating.
Oh my God, yeah, it's incredible. So I'm taking it for granted, Aaron, that all of this is going to become, you know, a manualized kind of process so that you can, hopefully, you're going to be able to do research on this and present this to other people who may want to model what they're doing using your process.
We'll see. You know, I'd like to. You know, I'd like to eventually, but right now I'm gonna eat my own dog food and be where I am. And do the group as best I can before I think to ahead. So.
Yeah, build your foundations.
Well, I hope you're recording it all, though. Being somebody who has developed processes and programs, you know, recording what you're learning along the way so you make sure you don't miss anything when you are ready to share it with the rest of the world is huge. And this work is, I mean, incredible to take what is mainstream and to recognize, you know, what wasn't working, because it's not just that it's not working for the kids that you were working with, I'm sure, and for the, you know, the teenagers that you're working with. It's been not working as well as it could have been for a lot of people. So I'm hoping to hear in the future that this is going to go big for you, so that a lot more people are able to benefit from it.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
definitely. Definitely. Ooh, let's get your website up.
Okay. So
Right. So if you're interested in, go right ahead, Aaron.
it's kidcooperate.com. And I haven't so much lately, but I was for a while writing about the process as it was happening, and so there's a pretty deep blog. I mean, not deep. The posts aren't deep and intellectual. There's a lot of them. There's a deep archive of posts about the process and our philosophy of practice, and it's not something that I want to use as a competitive edge. It's not something that I want to copyright. I want to be transparent and have it out there, and you know, if it helps as many kids as it can.
So kidscooperate.com. Visit it. Check it out.
And I mean, it sounds like, you know, if you're a parent who's got a kid that might benefit, or if you're a clinician who is looking for something better to work with the kids that might benefit from this program, or if you're a researcher, it sounds like you've got some good information there. And I'm gonna put words in your mouth, Aaron, and say that you might even be willing to talk to somebody who might be interested in kind of checking
I'd be happy
this
to.
out.
I talk to people in this area all the time, parent groups and advocacy groups, and I'd be happy to talk to whoever wants to listen.
Excellent. That's generous of you. So anything else that you want to say before we go, Aaron?
No, you know, other than that, I really appreciate the spirit of play that you guys bring to this process, because this is material. This to talk about this stuff. It can either be clinical and soul killing.
Soul killing.
It can be fun and conversational, and so I appreciate that and look forward to watching a lot of episodes.
And hopefully
Excellent.
not too many more of me falling out of my seat.
I don't know, Stacey. I think that you should work that into.
I love that all you could see was the slippers in the air.
I thought it was something I said.
She fell off her chair.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, thank you for coming and playing with us today, Aaron, and sharing some of the ways that you're playing with the kids that you're working with. I appreciate it very much.
Yes, that's amazing.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Bye. See you guys
Bye.
later.
For more information on PlayDHD, visit our website at playdhd.com, or come play with us during recess at Facebook/PlayDHD and on Twitter at #PlayDHD.
Oh, look, a squirrel.